Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be doing a more in-depth review on the Realme 8 5G. Now this is the video coming from the main 48 megapixel camera, which tops out at 1080p at 30 frames per second, as does the video from the 16 megapixel selfie camera. So I'm going to go into a bit more detail on my experience with the Realme 8 5G, including the performance, a bit more on the camera, and just my general day-to-day use. I'm going to talk a bit about the battery life as well. So let's dive in. Okay, so before I get into my experience with the Realme 8 5G, I'm just going to run through a few of the specs. So starting with the display, you get a 6.5 inch Full HD Plus display with a resolution of 2400 by 1080. This gives you a pixel density of 405 pixels per inch. So it's a nice sharp display. This also has a 90 Hz refresh rate, so it's a nice smooth display with no lag in running between the UI, selecting through your different apps and settings and all that sort of stuff. It's all very smooth. Under the hood it runs a MediaTek Dimensity 700 5G processor. This is built on a 7nm process, so it's a nice powerful processor with two cores, high power cores clocked at 2.2 GHz and then 6 lower power cores clocked at 2 GHz. It also uses the Mali G57 MC2 GPU, so gaming performance should be pretty good as well. I haven't done a huge amount of gaming because unfortunately I'm not a big gamer, but in terms of the general use of switching between social medias, the camera, YouTube and all that sort of stuff, I've had no issues whatsoever. My model here has got 4GB of RAM and 64GB of UFS 2.1 storage. There are other configurations with either 4, 6 or 8GB of RAM, but they have 128GB of expandable storage. If you look on the side of the phone, you've got your SIM tray, which houses obviously your SIM card and a micro SD card for expandable storage. And then you've got your volume rocker just below that. If we look on the other side, we've got the power button with the integrated fingerprint sensor. At the top it's completely clean. And then at the bottom you have your 3.5mm headphone jack, microphone, USB-C port and your speaker grill. So to round up my review of the Realme 8 5G, we're going to take a quick squint at the camera tech. So for the main camera you get a 48 megapixel quad pixel sensor which takes 12 megapixel photos by default. It has an aperture of f1.8 and it's a 26mm lens, and it's pretty capable actually. I'm pretty impressed with the overall photos taken from this phone. They've got good detail, some nice colour. Even when you're flipping from the normal shot, then you hit 2x zoom, 5x zoom, which of course are both digital. There's still a reasonable amount of detail in those photos and the colour is exactly the same as what it is on the main lens. As for low light shots, to be expected at this price, it's not the greatest, but it doesn't do too bad. And of course there is a built-in night mode to help just bring out the colours a little bit more. In one of the photos that I did with the night mode, there's a hot tub in the left-hand corner. On the normal photo, it showed the purple of the light on the hot tub quite well. And when it flipped to the night mode, although it brought out some detail on the house a lot more, it did overexpose the light on the hot tub. So it was kind of improved in certain ways and then not so improved in others. But overall I'm pretty impressed with the camera. In terms of video, it tops out at 1080p at 30 frames per second. In honesty, it would have been nice to have a 60 frame per second option just so the video is a little bit smoother, but again at this price you can't really complain too much. And it is also unfortunate that there isn't an 8 megapixel ultra wide or even a lower resolution ultra wide. You've just got these absolutely naff 2 megapixel macro and depth sensors, which the depth sensor, okay, you could argue that there is a use for it in your portrait shots, but then we all know a dual camera with a main and an ultra wide, using that second ultra wide camera is perfectly capable of bringing out depth in your portrait shots. So these two cameras are pointless. I hate them. I think everybody else hates them, but it's the ways of the world of these budget phones at the moment. And also the 16 megapixel selfie camera unfortunately isn't anything to write home about. I did find that the selfies taken from this camera a lot of the time were overexposed. I had to do a bit of tweaking in one of the photos to bring down the highlights a bit so that it could retain a little bit of detail and actually be a usable selfie. So that camera I'm not particularly fond of. I mean, I'm not someone to take a lot of selfies anyway, so the resolution and the quality of a selfie camera personally for me isn't important, but for someone else that might take a lot of selfies, it might be important to you. But overall, I'm actually really impressed with this phone. I do like the design. It's got this nice glossy plastic back, bit of a pain in the ass for fingerprints, but it is nice. The plastic rails on the phone are nice as well, and they're flat as well instead of rounded, which I do actually quite like as well. So that's my Realme 8 5G review. I hope this has helped shed a little bit of light on how the phone has performed and whether it's going to give you any help whether you should buy this phone or not. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you like videos like this, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you're notified when I make a new upload. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.